Thanks, Maria. Yes, well, I had the pleasure of watching Christian Calcano draft live, and Eduardo, I can tell you, a couple of twists and turns in that draft, my boy. Jeez, we got a real treat in our hands here.
I'm going to discover it along with the rest of the...
You don't know what's going on. You don't know what's going on.
I like the sense of discovery is very important.
But I can tell you this, Christian Calcano is a man with a plan, and whether he sticks to that plan is certainly one of the more interesting journeys that this draft takes. Of course, we can have a look at the players that were seated at this draft table. Of course, we've got some big names along with players that have done incredibly well to get themselves into the position they are. Hockenmiller, of course, crushing it yesterday, but it's got his work cut out for him. The likes of Mythic champion Alan Wu, Hall of Famer Guillaume Wafo-Tapa, Christian Hauck from the MPL, fan favourite Christian Calcano. Rounding out the table there, you can see Edgar Magayesh, Bernardo Santos, and some bloke called Toralf Severin. I've never heard of him. In any case, quite a stacked pod, Eduardo, to kick off our day 2 drafts here.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of very accomplished drafters and a lot of very accomplished control players.
Oh, yeah,
so
for sure. Yeah.
But I think Calcano is known for taking some drafting a lot, and as a result, discovering eccentric strategies. I was on the testing team with that was part of the Sliver Blade technology for Pro Tour Amonkhet. And that was actually interesting because it was featured on day 1. And it modified the draft format for day 2.
Day 2, yeah. We've seen stuff like that in the past, and Calc certainly loves to go deep on archetypes. Let's see how we went this time around as we get underway with our second featured draft. Day number 2 here, starting off with the human calculator, Christian Calcano, fan favourite, as I say. He drafted ninjas yesterday, and he was keen as mustard to do it again, but opening a card like Spring Bloom Dried in an otherwise pretty weak pack, not exactly where a ninja player would want to start, but there's not a lot else going on in this pack here, Eduardo.
Yeah, the main options seem to be either the Druid or the Masticore. I'm not the biggest fan of the Masticore. The Druid seems like the most powerful card. One thing with the Modern Horizons draft format is while... Blue-Black Ninjas has been said along with Blue-Green Snow as the best archetypes. Usually try to take the most powerful card and see what's open.
Well, Calca is going to pick up that Spring Bloom Druid. Certainly good in the Snow deck. Goes and lets you get a couple of Snow lands out your library. Maybe any other utility lands you pick up. But here's Winter's Rest. Another powerful Snow card, but Blizzard Strix as well. So we could be setting ourselves up for Blue-Green Snow here. Yeah,
both cards... relatively decent in a Snow deck. After you pick up the Druid, the Strix does get much better. You have an okay target with it, and you make sure that you have that Snowland. Plus, it jumps that mana gap from 3 to 5. Winter's Rest is just good removal, though, in a Snow deck. I think the Strix pick by Calcano makes sense with the Druid.
I think so too. It's a good. I mean, it is first of all an uncommon. You're going to see fewer of these in the draft. You will get. You're more likely to be able to pick up a Winter's Rest later on, and just as a 5-mana 3/2 flyer, still a respectable threat even without the Snow synergies. But with the Snow synergies, things really start to take off here. Let's have a look at this next pack. Snow-covered forest. If we're going to get involved in some more Snow business, but there's Smoke Shroud. We know that Christian Calcano has got a thing for the ninjas. We know that this is an incredibly important piece of that deck, and I think he likes this as his third pick here.
Yeah, the pick is either do you stick to it with the Snow-covered forest, or do you take the Smoke Shroud, which Christian does here. I don't foresee this necessarily as a pick I want to be in ninjas, but it's more I can be. In ninjas. It opens it up.
It's an investment in you for the future, for sure. All right, well, Smoke's Shroud, it's easy for me to say, excuse me, makes its way into the picks of Christian Calcano here. Here's another Snow card in Iceberg Cancri. I feel like these packs are trying to send him a message here.
I cannot think of anything better in draft than the pack sending you a message, because if there's a clear signal, especially in an open format like this one, you usually want to just read it and go to town.
Comes Astrolabe as well there, another Snow option. You can see Calcano weighing them up here.
Yeah, the Cancrix is kind of interesting in that I think on its own it's not that great, but if you pick up multiple, it starts being very important. But it works at its best with Arkham's Astrolabe, which was passed, along with a Snow-covered forest.
So at the moment here, Calcano kind of a foot in each door here with a little bit of a ninja opening with Smoke Shroud, but here's a snow-covered island, and again, not much else in this pack. Force of Vigor, Windcaller, Avon. So far, only other options in his colours. There's a String of Disappearances, not too bad. Treefolk Umbra, not very exciting here.
Yeah, I think with what's been picked so far, the snow-covered island is kind of the clear pick. You could take the Windcaller Avon, kind of on the premise that it's not great, but okay as a filler in the snow deck, and in the Ninja's deck, it's good. But I think just the snow-covered island is a good spot. It's your best basic for that archetype.
Yeah, you definitely want to pick up those lands. Here's another one as well. Cal can take that if he so chooses. And again, not a lot of other exciting stuff in this pack for him here. A Spore Frog certainly not turning any heads. There's a foil Nether Spirit, worth a second look, but not going to be the pick here, I would say.
No, I don't think we're going to.
I mean, I know he doesn't.
I don't think we're going to have that.
Take it. I'm trying to keep up.
Yeah, but no, the snow-covered island here. Again, to be fair, this is kind of where you want to pick up the snow basics. It's actually, this is the option. Like, it's what's left. You don't want to pick a snow-covered basic necessarily over a decent playable, because then you're sacrificing quality for your mana base. While there, you know what, there was nothing. So now that Calcano's picked up those snow-covered basics, something like this Archon's Astrolabe, it's something you can take now.
All right, Choking Tether's another option here. As you can see, they've been brought to the front of the pack. Talisman of Hierarchy, not the right colours. Murasa Behemoth and Tranquil Thicket would fit into a green-based deck, but look, let's stay at least a little bit open. We know we're in blue, that's for sure. And Arkham's Astrolabe, a great early value play if you have that critical mass of snow permanence.
Right. Arkham's Astrolabe is much more important for the deck. There was a Murasa's Behemoth with the Druid that could have been good, but you can pick that up later.
Scale Up here, just as a sort of pretty mediocre card in a deck like this. I mean, you know, you can push through some damage, but this isn't really... blue-green is not really the archetype that's looking to make the most of Scale Up.
Right, but one of the nice parts about Scale Up, this pack was empty, so there weren't really many other options apart from the snow-covered mountain. One of the nice options with Scale Up is if you have a deck full of, Iceberg Cancrixes, and you need an alternative plan, Scale Up can be that plan. If you have a bunch of 0/4s, you just make them all 6. Yeah, and it is a way to kind of steal a game in some spots.
Nothing too exciting in this pack either. Another Tranquil Thicket, and there's a Winding Way that's going to be the pick here for Calc.
I'm actually really surprised by that pick. Tranquil Thicket is really, as a green card, takes kind of your land slots, and you can play even 18 lands with it in some spots because, you know, you can always cycle it down the road. So I'm a bit surprised by the Winding Way pick here, honestly.
Cards drying up a little bit here. Tornado. I mean, it is a main deckable card with cycling. You can really get people with it sometimes, but not the most exciting pickup for Calc here.
Yeah, it's a little late in the pack, so picking up a decent sideboard card is fine. I mean, the packs have had lots of playables, but nothing really spectacular so far.
Collector Oof as well now, just more or less a 2-mana 2/2 in this format. I mean, you can shut down opposing artifact like talismans, but I mean, with your own Astrolabes as well, if you're needing extra snow mana. I don't know, we're not writing home about that. There's Ayula's Influence as well.
Yeah, just a couple of late pickups.
So always take the rare.
Always take the rare.
Always take the rare.
The rare challenge.
Got to fill out that collection. There is Treefolk Umbra, but it's going to be Reckless Charge here. Almost certain not to make the deck. We're just finishing off pack number 1 here. Nature's Chant. Throwback there to Disenchant and Nature's Naturalize, of course, there, yes. And a Spore Frog is the final pick for Calc. So you can see there on our draft dashboard, we now have the not only the curve, but also the coloured, the state of the colours in these lists. And you can see very heavy green component, although I would say that Calc is actually, sort of misleadingly by these numbers, he's actually stronger based in blue.
Yeah, for sure. The cards that were picked up early were blue cards, and the green cards that came are kind of all marginal. Apart from that first pick, Druid, everything else has been kind of marginal.
I mean, I don't think... Okay, put it this way. If Calc's final deck doesn't have anything in it from Scale Up downwards to Spore Frog, I don't think he's going to be devastated. No. Like, if he doesn't have to play any of those cards, I think he's actually going to be quite happy.
Yeah, that seems perfectly fine to me to not play those cards. The Smoke Shroud would probably not fit into a snow deck. It's also a weird... Like, Smoke Shroud is not just a blue-black card. There are some weird blue-white archetypes with changeling that you can have it in, but essentially it's a blue-black card, where Strix can kind of fit in since you have snow-covered islands into ninjas, rarely, but yeah, Cancrix is a blue-green or blue-snow card, so to speak.
Yeah, for sure. And we're seeing here, Calc sort out those picks, and you can see his broad prioritization of those cards in terms of how he estimates them in power level is in line with our own. Those green cards aren't too exciting. The blue card's definitely where he wants to be here. And as a result, I think we're going to see Calc keep himself open. We know that he likes drafting ninjas. We know he's identified as one of the best archetypes in this draft format. So we'll see what Pack 2 has in store for him here at Mythic Championship Barcelona. Riley Knight's my name, joined by Eduardo Sajgalik. You're halfway through, or 1/3 of the way through, I should say, our second featured draft of the morning. Christian Calcano, thanks so much for joining us here live from Barcelona. Great to have your company. And let's have a look at Pack 2, Pick 1. You can see the Ninja of the New Moon brought to the front of the pack. He really loves those ninjas, eh?
Well, I mean, that one's really sweet.
He really loves those ninjas. But a Winter's Rest also may tempt the old Calcarino there. What do you like here, Eduardo?
It's kind of close. Like, the Rhyme Tender would also come to the front if green was more of an option. Again, it looks like there's a lot of green cards, but there's secondary options. Winter's Rest makes a lot of sense. It's a removal spell, and it's based in the main color that Calcano's in. See here, Calc, very happy to stick with blue. Rhyme Tender is a great option, but if he doesn't end up playing green, might end up being a wasted pick. So better to take the safer option here in Winter's Rest. Have a bit of a snooski there as it gets cold. And let's move. Ooh, Fact or Fiction, Crows and Tusker as well, and a Fallen Shinobi. Is it time to turn the corner here? Well, I would look at Fallen Shinobi not so much in a ninja's archetype necessarily. It might just be a splashed card in a traditional snow deck. It's okay, like a druid or a crab can get in there and just, oh, the 0/4 is actually a 5/4.
Getcha.
Right. You can attack with 2 creatures because they're trying to be aggressive against you and get that in. So the Shinobi looks strong here. Yeah.
And that's the pick there for Calcano.
Right. And you shouldn't look at this as necessarily a ninja card. You should look at this as this is a powerful rare that I can splash for.
Right. Okay, so maybe Calc isn't sitting there thinking, all right, this is it. This is where I start getting into blue-black. But this is just a generically powerful card that you want on your list if you can splash it.
Right, exactly. And the Snow deck is very adept at splashing cards.
Ooh, but a Smoke Shroud here as well.
Yeah, and but also a nice snow card in that Icehide Golem. And the Rhyme Tender, which I would say in the snow archetype probably stronger than the Icehide Golem. The utility of being able to ramp up being very powerful.
Well, is Calcano going to love me Rhyme Tender? No, he's not. It is Smoke Shroud. Back to the front of the pack here. This man cannot get enough of those ninja cards, and he's picked up another copy here. A second Smoke Shroud above the green card for Calcano here. It looks like he's very heavily committed to staying as flexible as possible.
Yeah, that was definitely a sacrifice there to take the Smoke Shroud over the Rhyme Tender.
All right, next up on the docket here, Frostwaller, another Fact or Fiction there.
I'm really sad Fact or Fiction is not more of a bomb in the format.
The thing? Like, you look at Fact or Fiction, it's this absolute classic all-time Magic card, and people are just shipping it around the table. Poor old Fact or Fiction. How the mighty have fallen.
Yeah, too much tempo, too much aggression.
So sad. There's a Frostwaller, though, at the front of the pack, talking about tempo and aggression. Nice aggressive 3-drop here for Calc, and he's going to pick it up.
Nice callback to Rootwaller from Tempest, by the way. But yeah, Frostwaller is kind of that medium pickup. It's always okay.
I think it's a great card. Just having effectively a 3-mana 4/4 that can really mess with your opponent, put them in an awkward position, play mind games with them with that threat of activation. Bellowing Elk now under consideration in addition to Phantasmal Form. It looks like Calcano getting closer towards committing to green, but another Winter's Rest here. How many copies of Winter's Rest is too many?
In a proper snow deck, probably like over 5, but it's a really strong card. Pacifism is usually a good effect. This pick is actually interesting. This is the biggest departure, I think, from the snow archetype. Yeah. Essentially going... This might be the biggest sign that Calcano is potentially forcing closer to ninjas. I feel like
he's actively giving up on high-quality cards in order to pursue a synergy or pursue a deck type, an archetype that we know he's a big fan of.
The other option is he doesn't want to sacrifice picks for snow-covered lands, because at some point you do have to pick up things that aren't just forests and islands. You have to pick up mountains that are off color just to get enough. And yeah. All right. By the way, Moonblade Shinobi is... just a strong card, again, very similar to Fallen Shinobi. Obviously not in power level, but it is just a card you can play.
You can play like any decent blue deck for sure. Right. All right. So Moonblade Shinobi the pickup, but based on the last couple of picks we've seen, Fallen Shinobi, Smoke Shroud, Eye Kite, Moonblade Shinobi, with the exception of Frostwaller, Calcano trying to pivot here. He's trying to pivot, but there's a Winter's Rest. Oh, the call of the ice is too strong for him here. Winter's Rest, just that powerful a card, and with so many snow permanents now, he's got double snow-covered island. He's got Arkham's Astrolabe, Blizzard Strix, Iceberg Cancrix from the last pack, and now another Winter's Rest here.
I feel like black might be overdrafted at this table. If there were enough strong black cards open in pack 1, and Arnaud Hockmier like opened 2 strong black cards. I can't remember the second one. Grave Sifter was one of them, and I believe it was Mob. So that might have shifted people into black, which is why we see so much blue. Like, we see green coming around and flowing, but I haven't seen many black cards. So I suspect black is being heavily drafted at the table. So you're kind of this weird blue-green snow ninjas, which sounds really cool.
Yeah, it actually does sound extremely cool. But with another Frostwaller here, it looks like Calcano is firming himself. No, never mind. Okay. All right, I was going to say firming himself up into snow. No, there's that Ninja of the New Moon. He wants to start ninjutsuing people. He wants to get in there. And Ninja of the New Moon, the pick.
You can take it here. There was really no sacrifice there. It's a pretty free pick. There was no... The second Fornado is almost never making your deck, so it's a pretty free pick here and keeping yourself open for pack free.
Making tethers, but ooh, that Fact or Fiction is wheeled around here. Snow-covered Swamp under consideration as well.
The Tethers is very nice in a Ninja's deck, but the Snow-covered Swamp would work well with the Winter's Rest, so I'm a little... I'm not too surprised at the choking Tethers here, just because with Frostwallas or with the Ninjas, it does work well. That said, the Snow-covered Swamp would have been a nice pickup as well because of those Winter's Rests and the fact that Calcano is splashing black, so it would work out.
Next up, Ice Hide Golem here. So, Cabal Therapist. There we go. So another card that indicates that he might be interested in getting in with Ninjas. A difficult, a 1-drop that's difficult to block with evasion there.
Yeah, it's very close to a Changeling Outcast. I think that's how you should look at that card. It has a lot of text, but that's what it essentially does. And looking back at this draft, right, the last picks are coming down. You know, here I would. This is the thing with the Snow archetype is you have to sacrifice some picks for Snow-covered basics.
Cunning Evasion there.
Yeah, but and they were the good Snow-covered bases like Forest, Swamp, like. Good pickups because they're not off-color. They're exactly the ones you want. But Calcano deciding, you know what, this does look more like a preference than necessarily staying open. At the start, it did look like staying open, and it was drafted as staying open, but now it looks more like, it's kind of pivoting. That said, I don't know how many playables there are, and that might be the question for me. If you are straight up blue-black, there aren't a ton of playables. Calcano would have to pick up something like 9+ cards from the next pack, if not more. I think he's pretty solidly has to be either blue-green splashing black, and if he's blue-black, there's going to have to be a lot of playables in the last pack.
Things are really going to have to go right for him here. Now, one thing I will observe about this draft is that he has had the luxury, which isn't necessarily always the case, he's had the luxury to keep himself flexible while not giving up too much. Look, we saw like the Rhyme Tender pick. We saw him give up an extra copy of Winter's Rest. But his deck hasn't become a train wreck. And so often when you're like, no, I'm going to force this archetype. Oh, the cards aren't coming. Well, I'll stay. Oh, no, I'll flip. Oh, no, there it is. I'll come back to it. You end up with just this absolute mess, right? Calcano's in a position where he's probably got a core of maybe 10 to 12 very good draft cards, right? And if he can round out his deck with another 5, 6, 7, 8 decent quality playables, he'll have a good deck. Even if he hasn't gone all in on the Snow synergies, even if he's kind of sacrificed a few picks for the Ninjas here, if he opens up a pack that is full of Ninja cards or Snow cards, he can kind of go one way or the other. And this isn't something I was going to say. I mean, we're getting into the WWE territory here because I would say don't try this at home. This is not necessarily the best way to win a draft. Sometimes the cards won't fall in your direction. You'll end up with a horrible pile, a steaming pile of garbage. But Calca's been quite fortunate here in that he hasn't been heavily punished for for trying to stay at least a little more flexible.
I think staying flexible when you can is actually the right strategy.
But giving up powerful picks in order to keep your pet archetype open, I don't always agree that that's the right way to play it.
An all-time classic article is Ben Stark's Drafting the Hard Way. And then there was a follow-up to that. And then there's a third article, which you can read, called Drafting the Medium Way, which I believe Strosky wrote.
That sounds more my level.
Right. Actually, Drafting the Medium Way is the actual hardest article. That's the fun chapter.
Oh, no. Oh dear, I just need drafting the easy way. Here's an ingenious infiltrator. So here's another great ninja card. And this one, as you were saying before, you know, Moonblade Shinobi, Fallen Shinobi, those are just generic good cards that you can put in any deck. This one is a little more ninja focused.
Yeah, I mean, it's extremely powerful. The fact that it can be any ninja, especially with something like Changeling Outcast. The thing is, it's not the best splash card. You do want to kind of hit it on curve, especially on turn 2.
And look at this, a commitment. We're finally seeing it. Calcano has committed, I think, with that pick, Mother Bear. Very clear indications like, all right, okay, I know what's up. I got to play blue-green. I got to play my playables. I need that critical mass of good cards here.
Yeah, that might have happened during review. Like, what is my plan?
Yeah, I think he sat there and he's thought, right, I want to play ninjas. It hasn't come together. I've set myself up for it. But it's time to do the right thing, not the fun thing. And here's another copy of Mother Bear. I saw a snow-covered forest in there as well. A couple of other options.
One thing is, for me, is that the Mother Bear allows you to be aggressive or defensive. Now, remember those 2 Smoke Shrouds? They're really good with Frostwallas as well.
Okay, yeah.
One of the issues with Frostwalla that I had, and you know, you like the card because of free mana 4/4. The problem is it tends to get tempoed out. It tends to not be that great in certain double blocks against combat tricks. That's why the card doesn't necessarily overperform all the time. But with Smoke Shroud, it does. And what do you want otherwise? You just want to fill your curve 2-drop, free drop. And Mother Bear is one of the better green commons for sure.
Absolutely. So a second Mother Bear now joins the party. And what I like here as well, I mean, there's still upside for Smoke Shroud just whacking that on an enormous big green idiot and chucking it into the sky, getting in for 6 or 7. So it's certainly not downside. Oh, he's a Changeling Outcast. Oh, he's going to be tempted away back towards black, is he?
I don't think you can change Changeling.
You think that ship has sailed?
Yeah, pretty much. I think if you take the Ingenious Infiltrator, you can maybe do so, but I don't think there were just enough playables. So the Elk, while clearly less powerful or synergistic, is probably going to have to be the pickup. There's not enough snow-covered basics for the Arkham's Astrolabe, which I think Calcano might have preferred in this spot.
Instead, bellowing Elk there.
We're basically looking at green-blue aggro.
Yeah, it is. It's a much lower to the ground. I mean, you can see the curves down there on the draft dashboard. You can see how many 2-drops Calc has. And now, look, that includes all of the cards he's drafted. That's not just including the playables. There's the chaff in there as well as the wheat. But it does give you an indication that he's prioritized a lower curve, that he's well set up to get in the front foot, swish the willow about, dance down the wicket and crack some skulls there. And a Phantasmal Form is a great combat trick.
Yeah, and we've seen how high yesterday Paul Ritzel valued this card. I saw him pick it over what other people might have traditionally taken over it. And that high valuation, plus the fact that it's very good specifically with Frostwalla. It boosts it up to a free, and then on top of that, you know, that with 2 Frostwallas, that's 10 damage on its own.
Yeah, and the fact that it replaces itself, it's relatively cheap. It can really blow you out in the middle of a combat there, your opponent at least. And Phantasmal Form, a decent pickup.
Yes. By the way, Winter's Rest can kind of work with some of the snow creatures, so there's not as much need for the lands. But for Frost, yeah, Savage Swipe is kind of nice this late.
Kite as well seems to be under consideration here for Calcano. Firmly in green-blue now, has to be said.
I kind of like the Savage Swipe here. You have a lot of 2/2s between Mother Bears and Frostwallas.
Yeah.
And the thing is, it's very cheap, so it still works with your ninjas where you can, you know, they have one blocker, well, you get it out of the way, and then you deal them the damage.
Well, a good pickup there. Nice little bit of removal there for Calc's deck, especially, as you say, with those Mother Bears, with those...
very flavorful.
Frostwallas as well, yes, indeed. And, of course, flavor victory does count for something. Not much. But something. Ooh,
there's a Frostwalla. Yeah.
Another one.
Now, the only issue for Calcano, there are not that many snow-covered basics picked up, and they are drawing fast. They were flowing in Pack 2, and somebody might have taken them and gone, you know what? This is flowing. I'm going to be in blue-green snow.
I'm going to start picking up these snow-covered basics here. Yeah, we haven't seen as many of them. We saw a couple of forests and islands sort of drifting about in packs 1 and 2. Calc has already picked up 2. He's got 2 snow-covered islands at the moment.
And, of course, the Druid helping to be kind of the third source.
So he'll be looking for some snow-covered basics in the next couple of packs. Ooh, there's one
That's the one you want. Yeah. This is an easy snow-covered forest pickup. Yeah, free Frostwallas. You've got Winter's Rest. And there's absolutely nothing else. Perfect pickup here.
Easiest pick in the world here for Calcano. Should slam dunk that snow-covered forest into his picks there. Yes, indeed.
Yeah, I can't imagine another card getting taken here.
Just pivot into green-white tokens, take that Recruit the Worthy. I don't think so. I don't think so.
No.
No, that's not drafting the hard way. That's drafting the stupid way. All right. Calc now looking to put the finishing touches on this deck. Prohibit.
Oh, when you get like
Archmage's Charm as well here. A couple of spicy blue options.
Yeah, I mean, Archmage's Charm is very hard to pull off. That casting cost, especially in Limited, because you're working off basic lands. There's not really a pickup here, honestly. Prohibit is fine. It's not that great a card. I like it if you are exactly on the play. Or if you are facing something like a deck with at least 2 stirring addresses, like overload cards, because you
can still get them, even with the overload cost having been paid. There's another Smoke Shroud. We know the long-standing love affair that Christian Calcano has with this card. I say long-standing, all of 15 minutes, I guess, that we've seen so far, but still, he's going to take it. Yep.
There's not really
Shroud, number 3.
There's not really another pick, and the truth of Smoke Shroud is you usually don't want to sacrifice a quality card for it. I mean, you need it, but you'd rather have it late. Calcano knows how important it is and decided to take it early.
Ooh, another snow-covered forest. How about that one?
I think by being blue-green, Calcano has enough playables, and I definitely prefer it over the Tusker that would be much slower in a deck that wants to curve out on turn 2 and 3.
All right, well, Snow-Covered Forest, another easy pickup here for Calcano. Things have really come together for him. He flirted with danger. He did seem to really want to get into ninjas, but the cards kept pulling him back. There's another Crows and Tusker. I like that as a late pickup. That's good with Smoke Shroud. It's good early to find those snow-covered basics, and I think a very valuable late pack pickup there for Calcano there.
Yeah, even if you don't play it main deck because you have enough playables in your aggressive deck, it can be a weird sideboard card in a more grindy matchup.
Another Prohibit here. Not too much going on in this pack. I mean, not very exciting, but whatever. We're just rounding out the deck. But I think Calcano's really gotten away with something here. He sat down, clearly wanting to get into blue-black ninjas. The cards kept telling him, hey, take the green cards, take the snow cards. Like, oh, yeah, I'll get around to it. You know, it's like a kid trying to do his homework. Oh, I just want to finish this level, Mum. Let me draft ninjas. But eventually, he's come around. He's picked up what I would say is a pretty decent snow deck.
Yeah, it's a weird snow deck in the sense that a lot of the people, when they talk about their snow deck, they're like, oh, I can splash all the colors. I got my big payoffs in Conifer Worm and Abominable Treefolk, which aren't, to be fair, in this deck. They weren't there. You couldn't take them. So as a result, you're not having this kind of high-end payoff. And I guess for me, this is why also there's this pivot to a more aggressive archetype. Yeah. Frostwalla, I don't think in the Snow Arc decks is that great. But with Smoke Shroud, it's a very different angle. Because all of a sudden you are giving value to this card. You are allowing attacks for 5 in the air. And you know, Mother Bear can attack very easily because it's not usually a card that people want to trade for, similar to Putrid Goblin. And then, you know what? You get a Frostwall in there, maybe that Splash Ninja of the New Moon or something like a Fallen Shinobi, and a little later, all that damage just keeps adding up. I think Calcano has set himself up for success pretty well here. I think that he took a real gamble with some of the picks early on. We saw Rime Tender, Winter's Rest get picked for objectively worse ninja cards. But at the end of the day, he's done it. He's pulled together a deck, and I think he'd be pretty confident with a 2-1 and would be thrilled with a 3-0, I'd imagine. Well, anybody would be thrilled.
Of course, I mean, but I'm saying I don't think it's unreasonable to expect this deck to succide.
Yeah, it has the tools to succeed. I wouldn't say it's one of the strongest decks I've seen in the format, but it can be aggressive. It has the trademarks of a decent limited deck, so to speak.
All right. Absolutely. I think that's a great way to characterize it. Well, my friends, that just about does it for the drafting portion, of course. Now we get to the good stuff. It's time to see how the matches play out in our first rounds of limited here on day 2 from Mythic Championship Barcelona. We're going to take a quick break after that. I hope you'll join us as we get underway with the draft matches themselves. We'll see you soon.